Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy to have you all back here with us again, joining us for Fired Up Friday. And of course, we're fired up because the world's on fire.
A little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. And I was just telling Tiff and Myron, I'm not even quite sure where to start. We're just going to kind of dig in, and I'm going to give my guest an opportunity to start where they want to start, because there's much to talk about abroad and at home. Like, I don't even know.
Well,
So we'll go with
You know
ladies
what?
first, Tiff,
Yes,
and then
please.
Myron.
and the one thing that has been driving us all crazy that we talked about the last time was the Texas primary. So that was the one thing that we left off the last time. 2 weeks ago, we were like, so what's going to happen?
Right.
And we saw what happened. So James Tallarico obviously won that race, but he's going to have a tough road ahead. It's Texas is a red state. You know, people say it's a state where people do not vote, and that was while they had a lot of turnout. Well, what seemed like a lot of turnout for the primary, in reality, only 13% of Democrats turned out for that race.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
There's 18 million voters in all of Texas, registered voters, and only 25% or 24% turned out between Republicans and Democrats. Only 13% of the people, we were talking about New York, Myron, we were laughing because it's
Yes.
damn, only
Yes.
22% of people turned out. Yeah, 13% of people. I think it's like even less than that. It's like 12.4%, and only
Oof.
13% of Latinos voted. I don't know the percentage of the black vote, but when we talk about like vote share, we tend to say, okay, well, 90% of black people voted. I think somebody put out I think it was that guy, UMI, whatever, Uchi, whatever his name is. He put out like a chart where people were using that yesterday, saying, like all the different percentages of people and the share of votes. So it's like black vote was like, I think Jasmine got like 93% of the black vote.
Hmm.
When you actually start adding the numbers up and you look at the black areas like Dallas and Harris County and some of the places on the east, Gary Chambers did a really good video breaking that down, and so did Roland Martin, about those areas and the fact that not enough black people in those areas were able to give her the win, whereas James Tallarico, he was able to capitalize on the west side of Texas in the Rio Grande Valley and in Austin, and he turned out white voters at a large margin. I mean, he won Austin like 70 to 30% with white, and that's a mostly white area. So when you start looking at numbers, you kind of get a different sense of how he won. And congratulations to him for winning, because Texas is a really interesting place. But I think there was just so much vitriol that came along with the race in general. And I don't really want to focus so much on the race, on the specific race, but more so kind of the conversations that we've been having before and after around identity politics, which people seem to not understand what that means. And then also, how do we move forward, because there is so much happening within the Democratic Party that black voters particularly are fed up. And I think I want to talk about that.
Okay. I would love it. There are certainly things that are near and dear to my heart. Got much to say about it. So, Myron, what about you? What's leaning heavy on your heart today?
Well, I'm going to follow what Tiff said. Yes, definitely want to get into Texas and how people online, just like you said about New York, people online are very involved and agitated and all those other things, and the people in the states aren't even voting. Not to say that there isn't gerrymandering and voter suppression and all of that, right? We understand
Right.
that.
All the
And
things.
13% of the people voted. So there's that. And I think also we should get into, like you led off, D, that we have expanding warfare happening that started with the Iran and now is a bunch of the Middle Eastern states and is spilling over into Europe. And so where do we go from here?
Exactly. I mean, and he is really beaten the drums of war very loudly, he and Hegseth both, because now he's demanding that Iran has unconditional surrender, you know. So basically he's just bound and determined. These people were like, let's talk every time. I mean, they were literally in the middle of negotiations, diplomatic negotiations in Geneva when they got bombed. So
Yes.
I mean, they have no reason to trust us. And I feel that he is leading us into a quagmire. Like, I am
Yes.
old enough, and you too, probably, Myron, to remember Vietnam.
Yes.
My uncles, I talk about all the time. I am from a family of veterans, and a great many of them served in Vietnam. One of them, a Bronze Star, and I mean, you have to risk your life and save lives to get that. And so, what he is doing is very dangerous for, I mean, it may be on other shores right now, but the way he is going about it leaves us so vulnerable. Like, our national security is zilch, zero. And because Kash Patel had a fit and decided to do a whole big firing because people were calling him out on, you know, playing on the taxpayers' dime
Right.
with the hockey team, he
Right.
fired a bunch of people. Well, just so happens that the people that he fired are in the intelligence area that specializes in Iran. It's like they are trying to kill us, you know, with their Maha stuff and now their military moves. I mean, Putin or Xi, they don't really have to do anything because
Right.
our commander in chief is doing it for them. I mean,
Hmm.
basically,
Hmm.
he's, you know, opening, you know, he's unlocking the door, opening the windows and say, hey, come get him, you know. But yes, so we will get to that part and some of his cabinet feeling the sting of accountability. I definitely want to get into that. But let's start with the election part because I, like you guys, was supporting Jasmine because I think not just because she was a Black woman, but she's the most qualified candidate from my perspective. Now, I
Yeah.
don't have a vote in Texas, but I have relatives there who do. And so I was trying to get a feel from them, also trying to inform them. And of course, they were down with Jasmine too. I've heard a lot of critique of her campaign, which Tiff touched on in our last Fired Up Friday. She thought it was weird that she didn't have a campaign manager. She said she was running an unconventional campaign. And, you know, I do think that, yes, some of this is because of perhaps her campaigning, but people keep forgetting the insidious voter suppression
Hmm.
that plagues places like Texas and Tennessee, where I am. Like, it's been there forever. That's
Hmm.
why the Voting Rights Act of the 60s had the pre-clearance and all of that stuff to do away with some of these obstacles that Black people had to um, jump over just to be able to exercise their vote. And of
Hmm.
course, they're tearing all of that away. And then in
Hmm.
Texas, kind of like Tennessee, they pulled some extra special stuff, you
They
know,
did.
like with the primary. And for people who are not engaged and informed, it is easy for votes to be peeled off because people stand in line for 2 or 3 hours, find out wrong polling place. Maybe they got to go across town and maybe they don't feel like it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of death by a thousand cuts. The voter
Hmm.
suppression happens in so many ways. And that is why, like, I feel like whenever a Black candidate is running and the Black women being the base of the party, they still have two races kind of to run. They
Yeah.
have to help their constituency, this constituency, navigate the obstacles that are being put down. And I do think that she perhaps could have done a better job of prepping folks and letting them know what could potentially happen what to do and how to prevent it, and maybe go out, vote early, so they don't run into those issues. But you know, it is what it is. It was a race. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. But I tell you one thing I am not happy about, and I listened to Tiff and Kenny and Zach. Again, I can't vote there, but Democrats are the non-fascist party at this point, okay? And so we will rally around non-fascist candidates, and we will vote because that is how we're made. That is what we've always done. We had too many people to sacrifice and die for that right. So we're not going to squander it away. But at the same time, just as I said, you have to run a campaign, and you need people, boots on the ground. Now, I don't know how many Black people he's going to get out to help him with that boots on the ground part. So, Tiff.
Yeah, well, I think that there's so many different things that have come out of the primary, and one of those things was a very upset Black vote. I mean, they obviously, a high majority of them were supporting Jasmine. But I think what really has pissed people off is that it seemed like there was no effort during the primary to do that outreach to the Black community. Whether they voted for you or didn't vote for you, you still should have done the outreach, right? I mean, that's the part that people are missing. Like it didn't seem like it was a priority for him to do that. And then on the other hand, you have, Chuck Roca and all these other people saying, well, he did so much Latino advocacy, right? So it's like, so you purposely didn't reach out to us because you didn't think we were going to vote for you. And therefore, you went to the other people who did, in fact, help you to win. So it wasn't a poor strategy, but it's not a good strategy when you get to the general election, because now you have a bunch of people who feel slighted and a bunch of people who are like, well, we don't want anything to do with you. And guess what? The people that you will need to volunteer, to outreach, to do the things that you need to do to win, many of them are like, you know what? I don't care about this anymore. I'm done. And that is not a great strategy for a general election, not to mention people that are literally saying, I will skip that race on my ballot. And no, as a Democrat, that is not something that I want to hear. Somebody who is,
I would never encourage that. Yeah.
All of us care about voter advocacy, but all of us care about people voting. And so when you start to hear things like that, you're like, damn, this is not good. But also, this was like something that was foreseen, that was going to happen. People warned that this was going to happen because of some of the people that were supporting him and what they were saying and what they were doing during the primary. And now we get to this point. It's like, how do you reverse that? How do you reverse how people feel? Because yes, facts over feelings, but at the end of the day, there's a hurt there. So what do you do to heal that hurt, right? Because we saw it in New York, right, where Mamdani kind of didn't bother with the Black vote. He tried a little bit, but it wasn't enough, right? But immediately after he won, he did the outreach. He went to NAN. He went and tried to work with Al Sharpton and all of the advocacy. He met with Hakeem Jeffries. They went to meet with leaders in the Black church. Like he tried to do that. So I want to see what James Tallarico does now. I saw that he's at Jesse Jackson's funeral today. He was invited by Jonathan Jackson. That's not enough for me. I don't need it. The people that I know in Texas, they need it. They need to see him do something to bring the people together so that they can work together to help him win. Texas is a long shot, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think there needs to be some advocacy, and I do want to talk about like the broader party. Like, what does the party do going forward? So, Myron, what's your thoughts?
I mentioned it last time we spoke that I had said I made a video on February 21st that said the outcome of the Texas race between Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, the National Party would use that to determine how they're going to approach not just the rest of the midterms, but 2028. And I still believe that. if he can go with the very strong, like he did against Jasmine, he got the party behind him, he got the national party behind, he got the podcasters, he got all the left and center white people on his side online, and they just said we're going to go after the white vote and the Latino vote, and we're going to ignore black people. If they do that and they win, how much damage are they doing long term? And I think, Tiff, to your point, we're seeing some of that now because I talked about this, that black people in Texas will say it's been 30 years of Republicans. Who cares if Conran or Paxton wins, right? That's not a threat. That's not an effective threat to black people that a Republican's going to win if you don't vote for this other white guy. Most black people in America live under Republican rule.
I live in fascist Tennessee, so like one fascist is
Yes.
just as bad as the next. So
Yeah, so how
that,
do you right? So how would he reconcile that? Because now he could go to black churches and quote some scriptures, and black people in church will applaud and they'll like that. But how do you jump over that hump of getting more than if it was 13 or 8% or 10%? Because in order to win Texas, you got to get that black vote. You're not going to just get it with Latino and white people. You need something to get you over the hump. And I don't know that they have a strategy. But if I take a step back and criticize Jasmine Crockett, and I'll say this about Jasmine Crockett and any other black candidate in the black political establishment, that the white Democratic political establishment has a ground game and they have the technology and they have the data to get into all the way down into the weeds to figure out who they need to get to vote. And for the black Democratic establishment, you can no longer just say, I'm black, I'm on social media, and people should like me and vote for me. And I go to some places, you have to do more than that. It has to be very targeted and specific. And it's almost looking like when Obama won and they figured out county by county, seat by seat, what they needed to do. And Republicans were behind the times with that. And then they caught up. Well, if we just look inside the party, that fracturing in the party, the white Democrats are ahead of the black Democrats in understanding what they need to do to get elected. And that little fracturing can hurt us in 2028 if it's not addressed in some way. And I have said from the moment that man was put in charge that Ken Martin is not the man for the moment. And I'll just
yeah. I mean, I had people who worked with him in the state of Minnesota and talked about how he, really grew the party and created organization and structure and things. But, a state is not
yeah,
a national thing. And I've
yeah,
just watched how he's behaved, and it has been less than appealing,
yes,
and I've seen nothing to applaud him on, except that he does seem to recognize that it's worth spending money on here in the South. Now I want to say something to what you were saying, Myron, like that plan when you look long term. um, while they may win, I just don't think that in the long term, ignoring Black people who are and have been for some time the base of the party is going to fare well with you, because
I agree with
our
that.
numbers don't lie. Like, they
Right,
have been consistent. The ones you are winning, you may be winning them now because of the current climate or whatever, but these are not the voters who are going to stick with you
correct.
election after election. They're also not the ones who are going to get out there, door knock, help raise money for you,
Right.
and promote you
It's like
online.
it's like Tiff said online. The moment Jasmine conceded, all that intelligence on Tallarico was unleashed by the Republicans.
Baby,
A minute later,
they threw the folder and they just say, you know what, we are going
Here
to
you go.
all. I mean, the thing about it is, I don't think people realize this, that when you're in a primary, right? As Democrats, there is opposition research that we have. Like
right,
me, Jose, all of us, we know how to find stuff, right? We know how to look, and so
You
all
have to.
right.
there were things in that they threw out there that we had never seen before. Like, I'm not going to his page and looking up the word white. I mean, literally, that's what
Right.
They went to his Twitter and they looked up the word white and they took all
all
of
this
the
stuff.
receipts and they said, here, he's woke. He's a woke white man. Like
Right.
they went in on that. And I understand why they did it, but it's not how would we look being like, hey, the guy is a woke white guy. Like that's not
Right.
something that we would do.
You're
That's
not going to look for that.
and to us, that's actually in favor of the things that we believe in, right? Because he was talking
It's
about
appealing to us.
Right.
so, and the thing is, I don't think that James Talarico is a bad person. I don't think that
Right.
I think he's a well-meaning person, but sometimes when you have certain consultants and certain people that are in your ear, then
Yeah.
you're getting kind of the this is what you need to do. This is how you should, Kamala got it too. Like, this is how you should go
Yes.
about it to win. But my problem
Yes.
is the hypocrisy because people were like, Kamala shouldn't have done this or Kamala, but the things that Kamala was doing is actually things that James Talarico was doing.
Same thing.
Exactly. They lost their mind when she
Kind of hypocritical in that sense, and it drives me insane.
because
Yeah.
the goalposts are always moving for Black candidates and for
Yeah.
women, because that's exactly what I thought, Tiff. Like, people lost their minds because she included people like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger in part of her campaign. Yet the appeal
Yeah.
for him is he can talk to Republicans.
Yeah.
Okay. And these aren't just, like I said, the people that she had. I don't get it because, well,
I do
I
get it.
do
Oh, I
I
get it.
do get it because what it is white supremacy
Yeah.
underlying that they can't see and or won't admit. And that
Yeah.
is really something very hard to fight because it's conditioning. And my best weapon is educating people that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that, it sometimes it's hard for we non-white people to accept the fact that the divide between MAGA whites and non-MAGA whites or Democrats or independents is very thin. And there is always the hope in that community that there is a great white savior that can reconcile them, that can bring them all together. And so a year ago, it was the white leftists that were pumping up Jasmine Crockett and saying she's a fighter, she should run for president, she's way better than Kamala. And then the moment an average white guy showed up and said, "Oh, but the Republicans in MAGA, they're okay. I can talk to them. They're also children of God." All those white leftists said, "Oh, this is our guy." They dumped Jasmine and made her into a loudmouth, angry Black woman, just like that.
from the ghetto.
From the
Yeah.
ghetto, just like that. She was just
That's okay.
persona non
Yeah,
grata.
and that's
And
again the moving
mhm,
goalpost, and
yeah,
that is, like I said, the baked in kind of white supremacy that
mhm,
goes across party lines. Like, this is not just a MAGA thing. That stuff
right.
exists in our society across the board,
Yep.
across parties. And
And you know what, D? I did want to say something about voters in Texas, and across the South, Black and Democratic voters in red states. That people like me in blue states, we sometimes we're too critical of, and we don't speak enough about the gerrymandering, the suppression, and how hard it is for Black people to vote in many red states. And I made the example. I've lived in one place for 23 years.
I
I
saw
have
that
voted.
post. Yeah.
Right. My local place to vote is one of two places in 23 years, and there I can walk. It's that easy. But I don't even have to do that. I get all the notifications in the mail that my ballot has been mailed to me. I get a sample ballot. I get the second ballot, that's the actual ballot. I don't even have to take it to the post office or to a mailbox. I can leave it on my porch and my mail person will pick it up. And then I get a text message that it's been picked up by the post office. I get a text message it's been picked up by the registrar of voters, and I get a text message that my vote has been counted. It is and that's in most blue states. It is so easy for us to vote. And again, 23 years, I can walk to either this school or that school to vote. It's like a block away. But Black people in red states, and Texas is one, there's always voter confusion by design. And
Mhm.
polling places are a long way away. And you have to wait in lines. And I say that that when we say we don't have allies, you rarely see white Democrats complaining about how hard it is for Black people to vote in the South.
Very,
Well,
very rarely. And
you want to know why that is? Because white people live in areas where it's actually easier to vote.
Exactly.
Let's be real. That's just
Exactly.
it's
exactly. And that
serious. I
that
think when I was, reading through posts and stuff, they were saying, that in certain one of my friends said that it would if he would have voted on election day, he would have had to drive 45 minutes to get to the poll,
Right.
which is insane.
45 minutes.
But because he's in Dallas County, but because of early voting within the county, you could go to any polling location, which they had quite a few. So he ends up going 10 minutes from his house, but on the day of, he would have had to go 45. See,
And most people vote day of.
And most people, especially Black people, typically vote day of, right? So, and Democrats too. People try to make it seem, a lot of people have kind of got hip to it, like, let's go early, let's do what we need to do on the days, just so there's no shenanigans. But a lot of people just really didn't know where to go on the day of in Dallas County and in I think Williamson County, which is closer to where Tyler Rico is in Austin, right? And that's actually his home district, so they say. But I think what really pissed me off when I was listening to kind of the commentary and the reporting from there, the website where people were supposed to go. Let's think about this, right? People, you wait till the last minute, right, to go decide. Right. And I know they're going to go to the computer. They're going to go to their phone, say, damn, I got to vote today. Let me see where I got to go vote. They go, the website is down. You don't know where you go. You don't know where to go. You're like, where am I going to go to vote? Right? And now you're scrambling. Or you get to the polling place. One person said they got to the polling place. The person told them, this is not your place to vote. They went 15 minutes down the road to another polling place. The person was like, nah, this is not your place to vote, where you just came from. I mean, even people that I know personally, my friend, she's near Lubbock. She went to vote. They didn't have her information. She waited 2 hours to have to vote. So I think when we think about like the voter suppression and kind of what is going to happen, listen, I do believe there's two different aspects, right? There's voter suppression and there's voter suppression, right? The voter suppression is what we saw happening in Dallas County on Tuesday, right? Where they're doing nefarious things and you can see it and people try to justify it. No, it was nefarious. But the thing is that made me mad about that is that people were acting as if it only impacted Jasmine voters. Right. Tallarico got a decent amount of vote in Dallas, because we don't know between the two of them how many votes. I mean, obviously it didn't impact him. He won regardless. But in a very tight race, these things matter.
Right.
Anybody that voted after 7 o'clock, even with the judge's order, their votes are sitting in a box somewhere.
Yeah, just in a box.
Yeah, because Ken Paxton, the idiot, went and challenged that order from the judge, and now those votes are just sitting there. So they don't
votes that would not even affect him at all.
It had nothing to do with him because Republicans voted just fine. But so that is the voter suppression piece of it, and that is the piece that I think that needs some education on as we move forward. But I also blame it on this and what you were saying about like campaigns, Myron. Like Jasmine should have done better like communication about these things. And when you're on the campaign trail, you're not focused on these, but you should have a team that is focused on
exactly right. Mailers, they should be addressing that every step.
And there wasn't a
link. Should be educating them.
Yes.
And there wasn't a link on her page so that people could know or kind of understand. There should have been something on her page to like direct people what to do, how to do it. Georgia is really good about that, but here's the difference. Georgia has a better Democratic Party, state party, whereas Texas, their state party is not that great, right? So state parties matter in these types of things. Yeah. And I know you talk about Ken Martin. Like I don't have the same feelings as you about Ken Martin. I've actually talked to Ken Martin. I think it's damn you do, damn if you don't kind of thing. Because if he comes out and says one thing, then there's like everybody on that side is gonna have a fit. If he's just really damn if you do and damn if you don't, right? So I mean, the Democratic Party, people like the DNC is not in primaries. This is
right. They're not.
The state parties are the ones who manage these types of situations. And what we saw on Tuesday was that at a certain point in the day, the state party started like freaking out because they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But
Yeah.
they didn't even have the tools to be able to
Right.
help people, which
Yeah.
is why organizations like Fair Fight and all these different, like Stacey Abrams, when you think about her genius in how she handled Georgia, that
Yeah.
is unmatched. And that's what we need in other red states.
Yes.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of things. That's the education part, like getting people to know and understand how, these things work in polling stations, and to also have a game plan for shenanigans. You got to
Right.
game this stuff out because you know that they're always going to be trying to suppress votes and steal, because, one of the co-founders of the Heritage Foundation, Paul Ryrick, said, the more people vote, the less we win.
Right.
So what they do is to try to keep fewer people voting. They don't want
Strategy.
a lot of people voting, so they put all types of obstacles and hurdles in their way. And like I said, I just hope that the Democratic Party and the strategies across. And one other thing, just this is just a history thing. People don't understand, as you said, like the DNC doesn't handle the primaries. That's done by the states. And that goes back to white supremacy as well. During
Right.
the 1800s, when Black people they had that small little window where they were able to vote and hold office, and many of them did. And so what did white people do? White supremacists came up with the primary system
Right.
so that
Right.
they could choose the candidate. And of course, that went on, and we still have it today, just the electoral thing. So there are so many things that people don't understand that are it makes it kind of rigged against us from the beginning, and the primary is a leftover of that. So
Mhm.
I didn't
That's
even
great.
realize that. Yeah, and I
That's
think
a great point.
yeah, the other piece of it is like voter depression, right? I mean, I think we know that Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, all of these southern states, they're not motivated to,
No.
right? We are celebrating the fact that this is the most people have voted in a primary since
Right.
before
but
2020.
it was so few.
People are acting like, my God, so many people voted, and then you're like looking at the numbers and you're like, holy shit, like a lot of people really did.
Right.
In a scheme of things, there wasn't that many people that actually voted. It was just more
Right.
than what we have seen in the past.
Right.
And I think that is that should like be like red flag
Yes.
to the Democratic Party, the systems that be. And Republican turnout wasn't great either. I
It
mean,
wasn't.
Democrats actually beat the Republicans in turnout for
Right.
the primary. But I say that the thing about primaries is that they definitely get people out to vote, right? Because you have a competition. People love competition.
Sure.
Americans love a damn competition, y'all. So
Yeah.
if they see that there's a competition, it motivates more people to get out and vote. When there's a lull and there's like maybe a candidate that you know is going to win, there's no motivation to get out there and to actually vote. You're like, okay, the person's gonna win no matter what. What do I even care? It's not a big deal. But I think a lot of people are just tired of kind of where we are politically in this country, and that leads to like the next conversation about war and Trump.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kind of like what this administration is doing, that a lot of people just really aren't into politics and what the things that they want to hear from politicians. People say policy. Oh, Jasmine didn't have enough policy. Those people don't care about
They
policy.
don't care about that.
You're not worried.
No.
You're just trying to survive. When you're trying to survive,
Right.
you're not thinking about voting. You're like,
Right.
it makes no sense. And like for us mentally, like, oh, you're trying to survive. Maybe you should get out there and go vote. But
Yeah.
when you're trying to survive, you're just trying to survive. People don't have jobs. Like you said, you have to get someplace to be able to vote. That's gonna take time out of your day. Like people. So it becomes a depression kind of thing where people are like, I don't even care. Nothing's gonna change. Even if I vote, nothing is going. How many times have we heard that from people? Nothing's gonna change.
Because in some ways it is true, and you have to have that kind of long game strategy,
Long
and
game.
thinking that incrementalism truly is how we got the, civil rights acts and things that we did.
The
Like,
long
they didn't
game.
just start a campaign in 4 years and got everything. Like, these things were going back to the 50s, different movements and things, and it's kind of like the glass ceiling that women have to break. You have to just keep hammering and hammering away at it. But I think a lot of these people have grown up in the age of politics with Trump and the Bernie likes, and they look at it as a popularity contest,
Right.
and they just think the winner takes all, and they can do whatever they want. There are no procedures or whatever. A basic like of civics, which is no longer being taught in school to the degree
Mm-hmm.
that it was when I was in, and it
Mm-hmm.
all ends up hurting our society writ large and getting people you know in these kind of apathetic modes around
Mm-hmm.
politics or whatever. And again, where I come in is like trying to understand how they feel, and can agree to a certain extent, but help them to understand, like, you need to care, because the reason you're fighting so hard, and these things and
Mm-hmm.
obstacles that you're overcoming, they all connect back to politics. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want less of a struggle and a fight, you got to put people in there who are going to break some of those barriers down and put some laws in place that will help
Mm-hmm.
that daily struggle you encounter,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of hard to get people to understand sometimes. But it is what it is, and I'm never going to stop doing it, because that's
Yeah,
just
we will never, but I do fear that, like, some of the younger people, some of the younger black people that came out to vote for Jasmine, even it doesn't have to be black people. There's younger white people, younger people, period. People who haven't voted in many, many years, and once their candidate doesn't win, then sometimes they retreat back to that
Yes.
that mentality, and that is my fear with when we have these kind of situations. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen going forward, who's going to show up in this general election. I see people, like you said, some people were like, well, Cornyn has been here for I don't know many years. If,
Right.
if he's the person who wins, he's the person that wins, and it doesn't really matter whether I vote or not. So if you start to see all of that kind of seep in. And whereas, when you live in a blue state, right? If you live in a blue state like me and Myron, if your candidate doesn't win, the other person is typically like
Right.
a decent person, and in the end that person is going to win the general election, because Republicans
Right.
ain't gonna win. But when you have this foretold kind of thing where the Republicans gonna win anyway, why do I even need to bother to show up to the general election?
Right.
Those kind of things really do cause like voter depression and people to be apathetic and not want to go vote. And
Yeah.
that's a problem, because that is not even just a problem for 26, it's a problem for 28, because
Yeah.
people already, yeah, kind of have this like shady feeling about voting in general.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
a problem for the party. Like, I don't want to see us. We need to resolve this thing of, bringing everyone under the tent, or whatever. But some folks seem to, they enjoy the big tent, but they want to ignore the people who erected the tent, and, or, kick them out. And, of course, not down with that, not having that. But if they don't, kind of, understand what's going on and do better, the
Mm-hmm.
party could end up wandering in the political wilderness for,
Mm-hmm.
like 40 years. Because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it takes a coalition, but it
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, I feel like we as Black people understand that and don't really have a problem with that, but other people, it's kind of like my way or the highway kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like that
Well, you
that's
see,
the only
yeah,
coalition they are interested in.
yeah, you see that now with all that's happening in the Middle East, and we were talking about the expanding war and everything. There are online leftists saying, "Well, Kamala would have done this, right?" And even though there is nothing in history that says that she would do that. Not in American history for any black woman, any mixed woman, not in her personal history that says she would do that. And yet, to get ahead of 2028, that crowd wants to torpedo her early. She would have done all these things.
Hmm.
And you're seeing some unprecedented things from an American president with regards to what's happening there,
Some
and
unlawful things.
a lot of
Okay.
unlawful things. Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
if we pivot to that, so you go, okay, now you got the U.S. and Israel bombing Iran. So Iran is retaliating with $20,000 to $50,000 drones that's hitting the UAE, that's hitting Kuwait, that's hitting Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and somehow it spilled over into Cyprus and now Azerbaijan, and that's how these things just spread out of control. All
That,
because this man just started that war, like you said, ended those negotiations. And now he's asking Zelensky for help because Zelensky, they figured out how to stop some of these drones from Russia. Zelensky got that help and intelligence from Canada, who now doesn't want to help the US. And now Russia is helping Iran. You're like, oh
I
boy.
mean, and that is how you get a world war, my folks,
Yes.
my friends. Okay, and
Yes.
he has certainly started one, and it's interesting. We are in one. I know that sounds very hyperbolic to a lot of people, but Zelensky, who is at war, whose country was invaded 4 years ago, said this.
Right.
He said that Putin had started World War III.
He
How
said
big
it.
it expands, would depend on the type of military aid and resources and things that they got. And what do our president do? Well, he just throws more matches on that flame that's
Crazy.
already burning, and it benefits Putin even more because I mean he wants to see Western democracy destroyed. So
Right.
he really don't care what comes in its
Right.
way.
It's right. Plays it to his hands.
Exactly. But the other thing about this is that really disturbs me. And thank you, Carrie. Appreciate all the love in the comments and in the chat. But the fact that like this wasn't like an operation where, even though that was illegal too, going in and getting Maduro or, attacking some drug lords. I mean, like you killed the supreme leader and you are still targeting, their infrastructure and parts of their population. That's an invasion. That
Yeah,
is war. You are
it
not
is.
supposed to be able to do that without Congress's permission. And what do?
Right.
Nah, we're not going to take a vote on it. Like, no, I'm with the leftists on some. Some of these folks need to go because I cannot believe 7 Democrats voted with
Ugh.
Republicans on theirs. Like, are you out of your
Uh,
mind?
and I think they were all red state,
I
purple
don't
district
care. Like
Democrats.
even conservative people, nobody wants
Right.
their kids dying for a,
Right.
a crazy endless war.
God, what
You
a
know,
mess. What a mess.
No, I think you're right, Dee. I think people are just, when I saw that they voted, I wasn't surprised because I already know how some of them are. But I was pissed this morning when I saw something that really annoyed me, which was that Tim Kaine, Alyssa Slotkin, and I forget the other person that was involved in this, said that they were willing to give Trump money for a war. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like,
Jesus.
like, 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 what are we doing here? Like, if you're a Democrat and you're willing to give, we have so many issues in this country, and with the leftists, I do agree with this, right? I'm to that point where I'm actually starting to agree with them on certain things, and I don't
like I don't, I don't dislike a lot of their
yeah,
policies.
I don't either.
Some of
I
their
don't.
tactics.
I sometimes disagree with them on cultural stuff, but it's most. But when it comes to things like this, it really pisses me off because
Yeah.
number one, we already have an affordability crisis. Gas, my God,
Oh,
it is skyrocketing. Today we get a jobs report. Corporate America,
Going up as we speak.
is already going through like a lot of different changes.
yeah.
People are worried about the economy. We are slowly moving into and probably already in a recession. Right. I've been
Right.
warning people about this for months because I could see it in my own life. Like I see
Yes, exactly.
it. And you start to see these things, and then this man just starts a war. And you're like, okay, well, the one thing, there's one thing that was in the economy that was actually semi decent, maybe not in California, but I'm sure it's less than it was before, was gas. It was actually like working. Like, I know, I don't like to give Trump credit for anything because gas has nothing to do with him. It's an old
Right.
thing. But that was the one thing, like, okay, well, I don't have to spend $70-$80 to fill my tank. So I was
Right.
spending like 45 to 50. Now if I go get gas, because it's 60 cents more than what it was
Gosh.
last Friday to fill up.
And it's just going to keep going up.
And
Yeah,
it's
because
even crazier because I literally went to get my hair done. I left at my usual gas place. I saw it's like right before I get on the highway. It was $3.29. The one by my house was $3.49. So I took a picture of that. But I knew like my favorite gas place, there's the cheapest one, was $3.29. So I was like, all right, when I come back from getting my hair done, I'm gonna stop there. By the time I came back, not even 2 hours later, it was $3.49. I was like,
Yeah.
but I already have gas. I just keep topping it off. Like I think like not even not even 3/4, but I keep topping it off because I don't
yeah,
want to get out of control.
You don't, yeah.
And I'm like, this is the shit that's killing me. Is that what are we supposed to do? And now you're telling me that we can't afford to give people proper health care, but we're spending $1 billion a day on a war that you decided you
right,
wanted to jump into
Yeah.
right. With no off ramp.
with
Like
no
there's no
Yeah.
off ramp.
no
Nope.
planning, no strategy.
No, nothing.
A Fox News host as the Department of War, whatever. DHS is jacked up.
Don't call him that. That is the
Whatever he
Department
is,
of Defense.
Department offense, not even a defense. It's like
Yes.
Department of Offense, because we
right,
are
'cause
doing a lot of crazy
that are
stuff.
attacking people. So all of this stuff to me is like, damn, what are we doing here? And so I understand some of the arguments that people are making of what are we supposed to do going forward?
Right.
How do we even get out of this is the question. I don't know, because
Right.
it seems like we are now in a quagmire because
Right. Because
we
remember initially,
and you can't
they,
leave now.
I mean,
right.
the same thing that he said, the exact same thing that Putin said when he invaded Ukraine. I go in there a couple of days
Few
and
days.
take what I need and I'll be gone. Now
A
it's
few
4 years
days.
later. And Trump has already it went from a couple of days to 4 or 5 weeks to forever, as long as it takes. And yes, we'll consider putting boots on the ground. But Iran said,
Yes.
come get some. Come get
Iran said
some. We've
Iran
been
said they're
waiting for
ready.
you for 47 years.
Yeah.
And
And they
I know, because I told you guys, I was an active duty
mhm,
soldier in a
mhm.
combat support hospital when things flared up in Iran. And that was my sector. I was on alert, full alert for 3 days when they
Yeah.
took over the embassy and could have gone there. And, you know, we had
And it's
a,
only escalating. I mean,
yeah,
Iran has
it's
said that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, that they're
yeah,
controlling that, and
done.
that's where 90% of Japan's oil goes, and that's where something like 40-50% of China's oil goes through there. And as analysts outside of the United States have pointed out, United States took over Venezuelan oil. And that was one of China's vendors as well. And now they've taken over, or not taken over, but they stopped the production, some of it, of Iran's oil and oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. And it seems like, according to one analyst, they're trying to force China to buy from Saudi. And Saudi, they're enemies with Iran. It's not going to happen. Like, it's not that simple.
Like
And like you said, there's no off ramp. It seems to be spread.
Oops, where's Myron?
yeah, you froze, Myron. Hopefully you come back there. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll pick up where he left off. It is spreading because it's like a domino effect. When you're in war, you have to kind of calculate for various different things, but these people are not calculating for anything. They're just shooting willy-nilly. It's like two drunk monkeys with machine guns. I mean, and they're just, whatever happened. You back, Myron?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. You want to
Okay.
finish your thought there?
Yeah, so I guess if I sum it up, that when the price of when oil gets disrupted, they're talking about now $150 per barrel or something like that. It won't just be gasoline that goes up. because oil makes its way through all the products and things, right?
Mhm.
The price of everything will go up. Inflation is already up. And Iran has said, we got so many of these $20,000 drones, we can keep firing them. And the US is have to send two Patriot missiles to intercept one drone. And those Patriot missiles are $1 million a piece. Those drones are $20,000 to $50,000 a piece. And we don't have an unlimited supply. And even to make more, we need rare earth minerals from China.
Exactly, exactly. And
It's a
then the other
mess.
thing, when he cut off the oil, or captured the oil supply from Venezuela, it hurt Cuba, and he kicked them out. And so
Right.
Cuba's power grid is crumbling, and they are having a really hard time. And now he's, bragging and like, you ain't even finished one war.
Oh no.
Right.
And now you're talking about going into Cuba. Like,
It's
this man is crazy. And the
It,
fact that
right.
they're not trying to stop him and put some brakes on him, like, he's not playing. He's
Right.
not joking.
Yeah,
And I don't
they did a
understand that.
military action in Ecuador. Like that's happening right now in Ecuador. And
Right. But
he told the
that's
president
what
of
that
France, he told the president of Spain, because Spain said you can't use our bases to fly out of. He said, we'll use them if we want to. We don't care what you're saying.
a big
right.
bully. I mean, how is he any different than Hitler and other and that the Japanese emperor when they started the
Right.
world wars?
He's
I mean,
literally the Mad King right now. He's
He
doing
really is.
whatever he wants. But the sad part is that the people that are within his cabinet, they could talk him down and be like, listen, this is not a good idea. Marco Rubio is
Right.
like, he's ready to go into Cuba because he's from Cuba. His family's from
yeah,
Cuba.
he's talking about installing Marco
Rubio.
Rubio as like some
Yeah, you're gonna
leader.
go. He's gonna
I
go
mean,
over there. I mean, come on. Like
Please
they're
go.
not even thinking about like what this means from an infrastructure perspective, what this
Right.
means from a people perspective, because you put Marco Rubio over there and those people rise up. I even saw somebody saying something about, oh well, they go in there, the black people in Cuba could clean up the mess. Like, what are we even talking about? Like these, I guess like crazy stuff that I'm hearing and seeing, and I'm like, maybe this is
Out of control.
it's out of control. And when you have somebody like Trump who wakes up fly by night, decides, okay, today we're going to do something,
Right.
we don't have checks. We don't have a Congress. I don't think people realize that
Right.
we do not have, there are people that are literally working there, but we do not have a Congress that is putting a check on him.
At all.
The courts have tried to put a check on him, but they're also, some of them are complicit in this too.
it's going to take the people.
Congress. We do not have a real true Congress that will say to Trump, you saw, like you mentioned, the vote on Iran. If this was something that Biden was doing, believe me, the Democrats would be opposition to what he was doing, right?
They lost their mind when Obama used the drones and stuff. Like he got a lot of crap for.
He got a lot of crap for it, but again, Democrats hold people accountable, and Republicans do not. They are complicit in everything that Trump is doing, and we know that they will never impeach him. They're not going to 25th him. He is going to do whatever he wants. And we are all going to suffer the consequences of his actions. And when you're talking about like I've tried not to watch the news because it frustrates me. But I think what really hit me last weekend, and I think earlier this week, when the fact that Trump has zero empathy, six service people have died, and he's like, whatever, more people will die, not a big deal. Like, this is where they didn't even lower the flag.
No.
Exactly. They did in I can't remember. It may have been his home state, one of them or whatever, but Governor Newsom, I think.
There's a guy from Sacramento.
Yes, he lowered it there,
man.
but I mean, like, they should have. But and here you have. Switching the subject a little bit, but just talking about they're crazy. We got our MAGA Republicans here who are a super majority, and likely we won't be able to get enough Republicans to stop them, the Democrats. But they're trying to make Charlie Kirk a national holiday.
Again, I can't. The thing is, like, that we are very much political people. That we kind of know everything that's going on. Like, for the most part, like, we could keep up. I can no longer keep up with
It's too
everything.
much.
Myron is teaching me things that I don't even know about what's going on with the oil because I'm too busy like thinking
It's
about
too much.
it's too much. There's too many things happening, and it's manufactured chaos on
Yes.
purpose to make us be like all over the place, even to the point that my husband is not even political, and he's like, "What is happening with gas and oil and war?" And all
Right.
because even the average person now will be impacted by Trump's actions. It's
Yes.
no longer
It's
like it's not like, oh, policy this, policy that. We are now we are deep into this whole situation where
Right.
we do not have, and again, it's not like when we talk about like 9/11, right? Of course, I lived through 9/11. I was in New York, right? There was justification for us to go and attack,
Right.
Afghanistan and kind of do all these war things and be there. We had justification, even though Afghanistan had nothing to do with it. It was a whole different country, Saudi Arabia. But they had justification. Bush got the approval to be able to do it. Iraq, they gave us a bullshit ass story about WMDs. We have
Right.
learned from people have become hip. People weren't hip back then, most
Right.
to it, but because they went through the proper channels, so it made it seem legit. It is not.
Right.
This is not legit. This is
Not
hard.
at all.
And the fact that we're spending so much money, but yet you tell us that people cannot have ACA subsidies, that people
Right.
SNAP, their Medicaid, all their Medicare is being impacted, but we have money for war and people
Right.
are going to get killed. Is
Right.
not.
yeah,
And
that they're
to your
being
point,
killed as
because
we
the
speak. Yeah, go
because
ahead.
you said 6 or 7 Americans, but if you look at media outside of the U.S., BBC, Guardian, Al Jazeera, they're reporting, and even Russia, they're reporting 500 or more U.S. service members have been killed.
I read that and I need to read into it more, but yes, because we have military people all over the world.
Right.
We have bases really everywhere. Like when I was in Germany, the bases at that time, it was probably the largest number of military people outside of the United States. We used to joke one little area that I lived in at one point was the population of military people and families there was enough to constitute a small state.
Wow.
We have people everywhere. And, the fallout, I feel like, is just going to be so much greater than these guys
Right.
are even, because they're just thinking about themselves really. But they're
Yes.
not thinking about the military members and their families a lot of times in some of those places who live abroad, expats who just live over there, people who are over there vacationing or whatever.
Right.
People are in Doha are like, what the hell? I thought, this was the, like the nice place on earth for all the rich people. And they're like, not safe here either. And
Right.
it's really, like I said, the world is on fire and he just keeps throwing matches and people will get, so as you said, Tiff, we follow the news and it gets to be a lot or whatever. And we have to kind of protect ourselves against, just like checking out, because that really is what fascists want you to do, is to
Yeah.
just become so in such a state of despair because everything is awful, and it is. But we still, and a lot of things are out of our control, but we still have to try to control the things that we can and speak to the people who control those other things, whether or not they listen. We just can't afford to, because this dude is out of control. The folks that are there now are not planning on stopping him. I just hope and pray we have enough of a fair election that we can get some checks, but we can't count on anything. And I kind of feel like that's why he's doing all of this, so that we really don't really have an election, or it's so jacked up
Yes.
that he ends up doing kind of what Bibi is doing and holding up the election because of a war he started. And I think it's funny
Right.
because somebody had a banner on, I don't even remember what state, but it says your war crime doesn't cover up your sex crime.
Woo.
No, it's true. I mean, the fact that Marco Rubio admitted that the reason that
Oh,
we did this was because of Netanyahu,
terrible.
and he convinced Trump to invade Iran for his benefit is disgusting. I mean, it is
It's
absolutely disgusting.
awful.
And then he tried to walk it back,
He
but
tried to walk it back.
Netanyahu already was on Fox News and admitted that he has been
Yeah.
trying to do this for how many presidents, and Trump is the first one that actually bit.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the only fool who took the bait.
And it's and I think this is the thing that really drives me up the wall, is that there are legit, valid concerns about Netanyahu, the Israeli government, the way that they are kind of forcing our hands into some of these conflicts. But we can't even have the real conversations about this because it turns into a whole drama about these kinds of things. I personally cannot stand Benjamin Netanyahu. I haven't for years. It's not nothing new. This is before Gaza, before all of this, right? But when you see this, it just speaks to what VP said in her book, and she was like, he wanted Trump to be the president.
He wanted him.
Gain. This is what he wanted. He got it. And I still believe that some of these goddamn Gaza people that didn't vote, the shit was an op, because it only helped to serve Israel.
That's right. They got everything they wanted.
It wasn't.
Y'all are still talking about not voting. Y'all are still blaming Kamala. You're still blaming the Democrats. When is there going to be accountability for the fact that our government, whether you like Biden, agree with Biden, don't, we know Biden kind of fell into this trap a little bit too.
Right.
And Kamala saw it, and she was the person that was going to try to rectify this. But yet you're blaming the black lady and thinking she was going to do the same thing. She would never do what Trump is doing. Period.
She never bought a girls' school.
Right. And it was an op. And people forget this. What they don't realize, like the targeting of the Israelis was an op. Like Putin kind of set this in place. October 7th, Putin's birthday. It's no accident. Okay. It's no accident. And most of Bibi's cabinet, like these, extremists that they have there, they are Russian Jews. They came from Russia to Israel. So yes, Tiff, it was an op, because they got people into their emotions about the death and all of these things. And so Bibi used that little window of justification. Okay, thanks, Myron. We're going to wrap up soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day and weekend.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. But yeah, that whole thing was an op. And I mean, we know it, and it's sad that some people still don't recognize it, and that they are still using AIPAC and all of this crazy stuff to target Democratic candidates and stuff. And
the thing about the AIPAC thing is that, listen, I'm to the point where I'm over it. Like, I'm over hearing about it. We give AIPAC way too much power. They have way too much power in the conversation about our democracy. And I am really frustrated with the fact that we also, people like billionaires, guess what? Billionaires are funding our candidates. Okay, let's be real, with their independent expenditures, their super PACs, and all this stuff. Like, there's good billionaires, there's bad billionaires, there's we can take from this pack, we can take
do good things one moment and something crazy and selfish the next.
All of it is all hypocritical to me. When you sit back and watch it from outside, you're like, holy shit, this is all bad, right? But again, this is all legal because of the Supreme Court ruling on Citizens United, which is a whole different story. But what really, I think, pisses me off is that much of this, to your point, is an op, and it's very much to divide us internally. The way that the Democratic Party is being divided up into different pieces. The Jews are mad, the blacks are mad, the Latinos, their own corner. The white folks are mad. Like we're all becoming divided in many ways. And people are too busy talking about identity politics. The whole point of identity politics was for us to come together, not to be divided. That's the total opposite of what we were supposed to be doing. We were supposed to be working together in community to be able to stop the discrimination that was happening, whether it's
it was basically about, we see you, all of you,
right,
all of the rainbow.
we have LGBTQ rights. We have we fighting anti-Semitism. But now we're fighting each other, and it feels like very much like, to your point, that Putin is winning this war that he has injected into our society, and Israel is not helping with that. They're making things worse. This war is making things worse, and they're throwing it in our face, and they're gloating about it.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and I hate that American lives are being used for his bidding, because basically Bibi and Trump are two political peas in the same pot. He wants to keep war going on because he has some accountability that he needs to accept, that he's been dodging because of the war too. And Trump is trying to threaten his court there, telling them, like, pardon him, basically, let this go. So that's why he's able to relate to Bibi, because they're two of a kind.
I wrote a tweet and I said they're both evil, and people lost their minds. No, they're both evil. I'm sorry to tell you, they're both evil.
They are. People were protesting him in the streets before October 7th.
The thing with the justices or whatever, what the judicial thing. So I mean, his own people don't like him. It's kind of the same here. And it doesn't mean that everyone in Israel is a bad person or anything like that. The Jews are like, it's not that. It's just that when you see like your own government is trying to force you into situations, we have it with Trump. Not everybody in this country voted for Trump, right? I mean, it was only a certain percentage, not even 50% at this point voted for Trump, but yet he's still the president. The same thing with Bibi. A majority, but there is a minority of people that don't like him, and they have their reasons, and we have our reasons for not liking Trump. But it kind of goes back to the same thing. We have a system that is set up, which is a democracy, that is supposed to have checks and balances. But I ain't seeing no damn checks when it comes to this country.
Well, when the checks and the balances just lay down and roll over, I mean, they cease to function. They cease
to function the way that it's supposed to function. It's functioning in a way that is very much just go along to get along. And you have, the Democrats are fighting. The Democrats are trying to do what all they have is rhetoric. They don't have the ability, the votes to be able to stop anything. And we'll see what happens in November. But I think we are really in a scary time where, I live I don't live literally across the street, but I live not even a half a mile from the base, right? So I always thought to myself, I'm actually kind of safe because I live across the street from the base. I live not far from NSA. And now I'm actually questioning that. I'm like, am I safe? Am I really, really safe? Because
they kind of target those areas and stuff, so it's a 50-50. I mean, I don't know. I have to, but yeah, really and truly, none of us are safe, because the way that they can target our infrastructure, all sorts of things, big events. And he's bragging about getting the FIFA Cup here, and the Olympics or whatever, and these people have already said, first of all, they're like, come on, bring your troops over here. We're ready for you. Right. And then just like him, they're like, we're never going to stop paying you back. Like we want retribution. You are going to pay for this. So he's just creating more terrorists, more harm to other countries, but to us as well. And I still think the ways in which we'll be harmed are yet to be seen. And as you said, with the APEC thing,
I was watching today, one of our elected officials, he was in it was either Kenya or Ghana. It was in one of the African countries. And he said he was on the plane coming. It was Saturday. He was coming back from there. They turned the plane around. People were freaking out on the plane, like where, because they were supposed to fly into Dubai. They turned them back around, had to fly back to Africa. He had to figure out how to get from Africa to, I want to say it was in Kenya. He had to figure out to get to Kenya back home. He had to go all the way to I think he had to go from one place to another in Africa. Then he had to go to France, and then finally it took him 4 days. He's like, but I have resources to do that. So imagine a person that doesn't even have the resources to be able to do the things that I'm doing. So it's not, people who are abroad are being affected by this. It's not even just, I mean, it's just they don't even care. The State Department doesn't even care about the people who are stranded. They're like, you're on your own. Like, how crazy is this government that we have, led by what I call, and my mom called him too, the Mad King. And the real Mad King did not have what we have in terms of like resources and things like that. He was just mad. He was just crazy, and he was harmful to his people. And I think he did kind of start a war. But Trump has nuclear weapons. He has all these things that he could use to harm other people. And I just want to understand, how is it okay for us to just keep bombing people nonstop? And I don't see people in the street. I don't see people like the same. Where are the Gaza people? Where are y'all? Why aren't y'all on the street? That's what I'm saying. No.
Yeah, some of them. Myron was talking about them protesting Kamala. I'm like, yeah, just ridiculous. It's so performative. And you were talking about like that identity thing. It's more being a recognition and valuing of some other people's humanity who may be different from us or whatever. And that's all it really is. But they made it something ugly and divisive. But it works for Putin and for others, because the saying "divided we fall" didn't come out of anywhere. And that's what it does. It keeps us fighting with each other, so we can't come together and coalesce into a broad, democratic, coalition, or, a coalition just that, supports democracy, because these guys don't. And many of his big donors, these tax people, these rich folks, they don't care. They already said, like, democracy's done. We're over with it. So, they'll let the Mad King, hand them out a piece of parcel of land, maybe Greenland, maybe this, they don't care. And we just, like I said, we cannot lose hope. That's why my saying, John Lewis, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Remain hopeful, even though it is hard.
Harder as the days go on. But like I said, I think there is some piece of humanity that is still, part of me is like hopeful that we can come out of it. I have my little monkey Punch that keeps me like sane. I don't know if you know about Punch. He's like the little monkey in Japan. I love him. I mean, you have to take like the little things that give you joy, and they're few and far between. Family, friends, doing the things. There's so many people that are sick. Like, there's so much happening, and it's hard to focus just on the government.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing, Tiff. I'm actually being very intentional about maintaining joy and creating opportunities for it. And for me, one of the things that I'm doing is gardening. I'm doing a little balcony garden, and I'm really getting excited about, picking my containers and choosing my plants. Just before we came on, I stopped at the store with my granddaughter. I was looking for seeds. They didn't have any, but I already have some herbs that I planted last weekend. They're already sprouting up. So that's just really rewarding.
Yeah, it's the little things. Yeah, I would look forward to seeing my niece and nephew, my little cousin this weekend. My parents, I haven't seen them since Christmas. So it's like, little things like that we just gotta keep pushing. It's hard, but the world, we can't stop living because this man is crazy and doing all kind of crazy things. So I think it's just little things, having conversations with you are helpful,
Yes.
Myron, just to kind of talk through the stuff, because you a lot of it's like in your head and you're like,
Right. You need to a
you
sanity check
need
with
somebody,
other
you need
people.
somebody to like validate that you yourself are not crazy. I mean, there's like so many things,
Exactly.
but I appreciate us having these conversations every other week, and
Me too.
can't believe it's
We're going to keep doing it no matter what. So I thank you. And folks, we thank you for joining us. I know there are a lot of lives and things going on today because there's a lot of, like I said, the world is on fire, and they're, pick an area and you can have a conversation about it. But like I said, I was so glad to have Tiff and Myron here, just for me, like I said, a sanity break. And Tiff, tell folks where they can find you, and we hope that you will join us back here in a couple of weeks.
all right. Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right, then.